New forecasts for the COVID-19 crisis are making it clear that the actions Canadians take in the weeks ahead will be a determining factor in how this disease progresses. Alberta is now joining Quebec, Ontario, and British Columbia in releasing best and worst case scenarios. Michael Serapio is going through them with us this morning, looking at these modeling projections. Beginning with Alberta, Michael, we had that clear warning from the Premier that Albertans should brace for challenging numbers, and that is what he delivered last night.
Absolutely, and really a clear picture emerging here, Heather, that things are going to get worse before they get any better in Alberta. Now, we have to point out at this point, Alberta just has under 1,800 cases of COVID-19, and sadly, the province has lost some 26 lives to the disease. And the most probable scenario does see those numbers jumping up. Take a look at what we're seeing, because by the end of the summer, infections are expected to top around 800,000. And when it comes to the lives lost, this is the number you're looking at right now, 400 considered the probable low-end number, 3,100 deaths considered the probable high-end number, and with current measures, officials say that the peak will hit around mid-May. But these numbers are still dependent on people following the physical distancing rules, Heather. And to that, take a listen to what we heard from Premier Jason Kenney last night.
Know that these numbers can be overwhelming, but these models are not a done deal. I want Albertans instead to see them as a challenge. Perhaps the greatest challenge of our generation. How many people are infected, how many die, and whether we overwhelm our healthcare system, all of that depends on us and our choices.
So some very stark words, some very direct words from Jason Kenney last night, Heather. We need to point out, though, that this really is just a snapshot of what is happening in Alberta, because the full numbers will be released today. Jason Kenney just giving us an idea last night during his provincial address.
And before that address, Michael, from Alberta and from the Premier there, we heard from Quebec. Now, we know Quebec is already the hardest hit in terms of cases nationally. So what are the projections from public health officials there in terms of how the pandemic might play out?
Yeah, and a proviso here, because as Quebec shared their numbers, they only went to the end of the month. They didn't really want to future cast much more down the road. But as you say, Quebec already having the highest number of cases, more than 9,000 cases in the province right now. And officials do expect that the peak will hit sometime in the next couple of weeks. They are using the April 18th date as the likely date, and the number of deaths are expected to jump from the current 150 lives lost over 1,200. And again, this is by the end of the month. Still, there are some encouraging signs. The Quebec Premier, François Legault, says that the number of people going to hospital now is dropping, as are the number of people going into ICU. Take a listen, though, because he does not want that encouraging part of the update to cause any type of backtrack on the provisions people are following.
I want to be very clear. This doesn't mean we can ease our efforts. We cannot spoil all that we've accomplished together in the last few weeks.
That is the Premier as he spoke yesterday, 1 o'clock this afternoon, Eastern Time. Michael, he will be again at that microphone for his daily briefing. Let's look to the national picture. Now there's Ontario, British Columbia, Alberta, Quebec, all releasing projections. When does or will we get a national projection from the federal government?
Yeah, good question, because if you listen to the Prime Minister last week, he said that a national modeling picture would be coming out in the coming days, but still there is none, despite the continuing demand and the pressure, because people are making sacrifices right now. People are facing and living through financial insecurity. Again, Trudeau said that in the coming days, but that was last week, so we still wait. The next province that we're going to be watching out for, though, is Saskatchewan, as you said right off top. They'll be giving their modeling numbers today, and we're expecting some good news, as we're already hearing that the number of people in recovery is now outpacing the number of new cases in the province, Heather.
We will listen in for what Premier Scott Moe has to say. Thank you so much, Michael Serapio.